Hey guys, welcome back to the Community Fitness Podcast. I'm Jordan Rudolph, the founder of Unity Fitness and also the owner of Unity Fitness and the host of the Community Fitness Podcast. And we are here. It's Christmas Eve, episode 113. We've got a super cool episode today for two reasons. One, because we get to talk about goal setting, which is coming up very quickly here with the New Year's resolutions. But more importantly, and even more cool, and what I think is more cool, we have a special guest. You might know him from, if you're paying attention to local music, as the frontman and singer-songwriter for the band One Way North out of Tomah, Wisconsin, or if you've been paying attention a little bit to local news and maybe a show on the air, on the local airways, on the national airways called The Voice. You might know him as Aaron Scott. Aaron, welcome to the show, man.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, anytime. It was pretty cool, guys, when we were following Aaron's journey. I've actually been following his band for a while. I remember coming back, I think, from a golf trip at the end of August, early September, and listening to one of the local radio stations, rock stations here in Wisconsin, Aaron, and your band came on.
Nice.
So I'm like, cool, they're from Wisconsin. And then the DJ said, yeah, they're out of Tomah. I'm like, whoa. This is,
Yep.
This is the same band that I'm following online, right? And it turned out that I followed it from a friend that posted you from a while back. And obviously you guys have just released an album earlier this year, and it was one of the songs from that album.
Yep. Craziness, huh?
Yeah, super cool. I think my favorite song on that album is Break This. But I think Lie to Me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought for sure that was going to be everybody's favorite song on the album. And it got like no feedback compared to a lot of other songs. I was very surprised. So thank you for saying that.
That's awesome.
That's my favorite. I love working after that song. I'm like, man, I'm surprised more people don't say that, but that's awesome.
That's super cool. Yeah, I think Break This is my favorite one. I think Lie to Me is the big one right now being played, right? That's the big hit.
That one, yeah, on the radio, that one's being played, and then on the cover we did of Louis Capaldi's "Someone You Love," that's getting a lot of like international attention on Spotify and Apple Music and stuff like that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll say that one went crazy. I remember you made a post, and I think it was on your Facebook page. It was going bonkers over YouTube. I think it was going viral over YouTube first. That's awesome.
I actually recorded that in this very room in my basement here at my house where our studio is. We recorded the whole album pretty much right here in this room for our album we released, and I did that video right here. So I just kind of thought maybe I'd get like, I don't know, I'd be happy with 3,000 views. And sure enough, my dad, he's like, dude, you're like over 10,000 right now. I'm like, no. And that was, I knew that at the same time I did that, I knew that The Voice was a possibility, so I was like, this might be my little fun thing. And then after I go on The Voice, people will actually discover this video and think it's cool. It was actually reversed. People actually liked the video and watched that video first. And then when they saw me on The Voice, they're like, oh yeah, that's the guy that did the Louis Capaldi cover. And like, that was kind of hilarious. So it worked out funny.
Same dude. Very cool. Very cool. So, bringing us back to kind of the point of the major point of why we're here too. And side stories are all good. I go on tangents, side stories all the time. So anything you got works.
Yeah.
But guys, the cool thing is I was reading through this, first learned about Aaron a while back just because he's from my hometown or currently lives in my hometown, but from the local area. Listening to One Way North, having some songs on my playlist that streams through YouTube and Spotify and all that stuff. But then there was this process of goal setting, and I read his article in the Lacrosse Tribune and started watching a little bit more on The Voice and following a little bit more intensely. And obviously, if that happens, Facebook likes to show more and more of it. So I just got a bunch of Aaron involved, and then it came down to it, like, what if we could talk to him about his journey, basically as a person, but also into this musical world and this musician and being on The Voice and everything else, and just kind of learn about the steps and certain things that we can use to parallel our journey in the health and fitness, and also as a person as a whole. Reached out to him, he was all in, and here we are. So yeah, super awesome stuff. We can kind of talk about the accomplishments and everything else, but I think the big thing that we want to cover today is like talking about success, motivation, goal setting, and something that I've been really big on lately, mostly because I've been listening to Matthew McConaughey's new book, Green Lights, or his memoir. But like how the journey, there is no finish line. It's kind of a continuous process. So Aaron's going to be here to talk about that in his own and in terms of his journey, but also we're gonna help you guys out in terms of how to get that goal setting in there, look for motivation, find success, celebrate the joy, the accomplishments, and learn from the setbacks and just kind of keep moving forward. Aaron, that sound good to you?
Awesome, man. Let's do this.
Cool. So you're originally from the Toma area, right? You're from, is it Brookwood?
Little Wilton,
Wilton.
which is in the Brookwood School District. So that's the Wilton, Norwalk, Ontario. Yeah. Village of 500 people. I'm related to town pretty much. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Whatever.
The village of 500. So when you were growing up, did you ever have plans to do stuff musically? Did you want to?
I remember as a young kid when music would be blaring. I mean, my mom's a big music person just like me. We would crank the music in the kitchen. I would always be the one grabbing the broomstick and pretending it was the microphone and just pretending I was on stage singing. But I was a very quiet kid. I was a very skinny. I was smaller than average. And I didn't have a lot of confidence at all. So definitely didn't think I would do anything to the caliber of what I've done so far. So that kind of came later once I really realized I actually genuinely loved doing it. And that was through choir at school and high school. And then college when it came to like playing the acoustic guitar in dorm rooms and hanging out with friends, singing and just doing stuff like that. And then at church, afterwards when I would be on worship teams, and I just realized I actually really do love this. There's a rush that, when you find your true passion and you do it, that little, rush that you get. The more I did it, the more I felt that same rush and that same desire to keep going. And so naturally through the process of all this, I guess when you realize you love something and you kind of realize you have a talent, you kind of want to then push yourself to see how far can it go, not just in terms of success, but in terms of just ability, and of course it's funny how all that parallels in fitness and everything like we talk about, as soon as you really get started and you start, get into the gym or you start lifting, you start trying to do stuff and you start realizing you're seeing gains, you're seeing improvements, you just get that craze to keep going and keep building and keep going and see where you go from there. That's definitely what happened to me.
So you touched on so many things there. I think the main thing that I heard was what you just ended with right there, but also through the process. And you knew there was a passion there first. You knew there was something that you were loved and you wanted to pursue. And through that process, all of these things started happening, but you also realized the magic of what also could happen.
Mm-hmm. And I think that part of that too, and I don't want to cut in too much, but like I think it's the lack of wanting to conform too, because when I started singing, it was post, like the stuff that I listened to and a lot of the styles that I had were like early 2000s, late 90s, that post grunge era stuff in terms of my vocals and singing. And there were a couple of people that said like, no, you got to go country, or you got to drop that. That's kind of gone on the way out, or you got to go contemporary. You got to, and in my faith base, it's like, no, you got to stick to Christian. You got to stick, like, if you're going to be Christian, you got to say you're strictly Christian. You got to use the word Jesus and you got to use the word God in all your songs. And you got to conform to these certain things. And I think finding out who you are and finding out what works is having the strength and courage to say, no, that's not what I want to do. That's not what I feel like, because that's part of the passion. You got to do what works. I think that's what makes it sustainable. If you conform to what others are saying you should do, eventually you're going to lose yourself in it and lose the passion for it, and you're going to give it up. And I learned that the hard way a few times, because I'd conform a little bit here and I'm like, I don't like that. I'd throw it out. And then I'd do it again over here and no, I don't like that either. And so you kind of find your way along the process.
I think there's another huge nugget there where not conforming and staying who you are because it's your journey, but also experimenting a little bit of trial and error, has some experimentation and see what works, what doesn't, to make this sustainable and make this as powerful and as sustainable as can be. Yeah. Super cool. Thank you for staying with that, by the way, because Fuel Hemorrhage, Fuel's song that you sang for The Voice is one of probably my all-time like top 10, top 15 songs. Like that's way up there. That was kind of right when I got into rock music.
Right. I was a junior in high school when that song came out. And I heard that dude's voice. That's Brett Scallion's voice, right? Yeah. I heard him on the radio like that. And I just like, dude, that guy's voice is amazing. And I tried to sing like that in my car, listening to him. I just got my driver's license. I was finally getting confident to go out and drive. and I sucked. I wasn't even close to that guy. I was like, okay, he is so much better than anything I could ever hope to be. And then it's just like I found out like a month or two before the blind auditions what song I was actually going to sing. And when they told me that I was going to sing "Hemorrhage Fuel" by Fuel, I freaked out. I literally ran laps in my house like, you've got to be kidding me. That's the song that, like, for you, you say it started your journey to love rock. For me, it started my journey to love rock singers. Like that,
Yeah.
that voice, him and like Scott Stapp. I know I'm a Creed fan. Like, I'm not ashamed. Some people hate that, but hey, it's fine. I'm not conforming, I love Creed, and they need to reunite in 2021. That's what I'm saying. But anyway,
There's talk of it. There's talk of it.
I know, but hey, I don't know if you watch other podcasts or not, but Pat McAfee and Aaron Rodgers are trying to talk Scott Stapp into reuniting. I'm like, I think it's hilarious. Like, yes, we need to make this happen. Like, let's work with them to make this happen. So,
Yeah, that was just on one of the podcasts. We were just talking about it, one of the members at the gym, and that's on every Tuesday when it comes out, and going over those. So yeah, super funny. And I'm with you. I like you can't, you hear people got all that stuff about Creed, but then when you hear the song, like everybody sings along too.
Oh, yeah.
And
Everybody loves it. They'll never say it.
Right. I'm with you. And there's another big note that you touched on through that. I think you've said it 3 times now, is confidence. And I think the whole reason why I even got involved with fitness, I said it on last week's episode of the podcast. I always avoided the gym in high school. And I wish I would have done it now looking back, because it probably would have prevented me from being in all the injuries in the world that happened. But I always just got the back door. And my freshman year, I was up a bunch of weight. I was always been an introverted person, kind of a wallflower, not very confident. And I lost a lot of that, and I was losing more of that, and fitness brought all that back up. 5 years later, graduate from school. 9 years later, I'm still in the industry and now in the business and everything else, but it's all because of confidence. Fitness gave that. That's a huge thing.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I would say in the fitness realm, the psychological, advantages are much better than the physical. The physical are great. You feel stronger, you have more energy, you feel like you look better in your clothes, things fit better the way you want to. But I would say the endorphins, the confidence, the rush that you get when you get in a good workout. I mean, that's something that was this whole journey, we'd say, on The Voice was something that really stood out for me with fitness, because before I went to LA, I worked in the gym over at Silver Star in Lisbon, and I'd do that on weekends, and on the other days I'd come in and work out, and I was doing it pretty regularly. I wanted to be in good shape, not just trying to be physically in a good place, but just also like endurance wise for singing and everything that he would be asking you to do. So I tried to work out, and then when you got to LA, because of COVID, everything was shut down. The gym that they had in the hotel wasn't accessible. We couldn't even leave our rooms. We literally couldn't leave our rooms. So I actually was lucky enough to think ahead and bring some exercise bands, but it just wasn't the same thing. So by about the 3rd week being out there, before the blind auditions, I was hurting. And it wasn't as much physical as it was mental, because I just had no endorphin rush. I tried the best I could, but it's something about working out in a way that you love and enjoy, and being able to do it on a regular basis that just keeps you going. And it hurts when you can't do it. When you know what it is and you can't do it, that's the worst.
100%. 100%. When you lose a little bit of what you found, and you know what that feeling is, it's so crushing.
Because my bench press was just miserable, man. Oh, I couldn't believe it. Like, I'm still trying to build up to where I was pre The Voice. Like, not even close. I'm like, dang it. Oh well.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think it's if I remember correctly from the science behind it, I think it's if you take 1 week off, you don't lose anything. But after that, like each week, there's a percentage that drops, and then after I think 3 weeks, so 4 weeks total, it's like an exponential drop. And you were probably right at that edge there.
And I keep banking on muscle memory, but I'm still waiting for my muscles to remember what they were. I'm still waiting for that memory to kick in. So we'll see.
I think there's about 80 members at Unity Fitness right now saying that, yeah, Jordan says it all the time too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a real thing. Oh, well.
No doubt. So you also had you worked in a gym. You're obviously very familiar with fitness. We'll going through that. Were you ever were you ever coach, or do you work there kind of more on the floor? Anything like that?
I don't have the fitness license. I work as a teacher, and
Mhm.
my day job, you'd say. And then through that, I also was in coaching. And then I was pretty big into football, but kind of like you, I didn't really utilize the weight room until after high school, when I decided I wanted to impress girls. I'm sorry, let me be honest. That was a big part of it. I was this scrawny little freshman in college. I didn't think I had anything to offer. My hair started thinning when I was very young. I thought, I got really nothing to offer. I better at least have some strength so I can protect somebody. So that's what I thought I had. So I tried to, get into it then. But then just from the coaching and just from my own journey and what I've learned for myself, just doing it myself, um, I was actually teaching in New Lisbon at the time, and the owner of the fitness center had seen that I was actually coaching kids in the weight room after school, and just said, "Hey, would you like to get paid to do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I kind of took that job, and it wasn't officially a trainer, but at the same time, I kind of was at a discount. So
Yeah, yeah, very cool, very cool. So you kind of have some skin in the fitness game too, and so there's even a little bit more about this that we can parallel over, because that's going to be huge for like everything you noted on before. There's physical stuff that fitness gives you. It opens the door to a lot of things, just like music.
Mhm.
But there's this mental aspect of it as well. And when we're pursuing goals, there's a lot of this. The mind can play a lot of tricks on us, right? And our body will perceive whatever, or body will achieve whatever our mind perceives, and everything else. So let's kind of touch on a couple things. I think you and I can really go into that ballpark of talking about the confidence and the endorphins, and just the overall self-esteem that can clear a mind and help a person get to where they want to get to. But let's talk about like a couple setbacks, and maybe what and fitness in general can help with that, with the mental side of things. But
Mhm.
also, let's go into I don't want to say this, where we can kind of smoothly transition into it. So how fitness and goal setting can help with setbacks,
Mhm.
and how music is alike to that, where there's a relation, there's a connection there, and the journey through that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, cool. I don't know if it makes sense in my head yet, but I might have got it out.
I'm following because yeah, I walk that line, so I get you.
So when people have setbacks, or when they don't have the gym once they've had it, because I think there's a lot. Most people out there have never really been a member of a gym. I think it's like 28% of the population has ever had a gym membership, something along those lines. When I first started 9 years ago in the industry, I think it was 18. So it's up,
Stuff,
which
yeah.
is good. Yeah, which is good, but we're still losing a lot of battles out there. There's a lot of stuff with health and obesity and everything else that we're not winning on.
Mhm.
And I think there's one thing that really people touch base on, and don't touch enough on it, and is that mental health component. And I think that's a serious big issue in the country itself and in the world. But fitness has a way to do that. And I think music has a way to clear that up too.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the parallels are no doubt. I think that a lot of people don't go to the gym, at least in my experience of the people that would walk into the gym and ask a few questions about the gym. And you could just look in their eyes and you could tell the confidence. We talk about the confidence, like the confidence to just come in and get started. Like they're already doubting themselves
Mhm.
that they won't be accepted in a setting like the gym. And it's absolutely the opposite if you really break it down. I think a lot of people have this idea that only buff dudes with little shirts, sleeveless shirts that grunt when they lift heavy weights and just walk around strutting their stuff, that's all that the gym has to offer. And that's very much not the case, especially after working there for myself. There were things like, because I usually worked in a school gym at a high school, and I helped kids. Either I was coaching, or I was just helping in the fitness, or I was helping power lifters or something like that. So I myself had some questions about what the gym, and you would say like that, just natural public setting actually really offers. And what if you really get there, you get to know some of the people you walk in, and some of these people are, like the most inspiring people for me in the gym were not guys my age doing what I was doing. It was the 80-year-old people that had just got done with knee surgery that were walking on the treadmill with a smile on their face and had the best attitudes the world could offer, you know. And you have a conversation with those people, and it gives you a new energy and a new appreciation for just the fitness journey, or at least the idea of being healthy. Because they had every right, if you look at their situations, a lot of times they had every right or every excuse to just stay home and sit, turn on Jeopardy, and just eat themselves into all kinds of health problems. But no, they turned off the TV, they got up off the couch, they went to the gym. Even when it snowed 6 inches outside, they were still there, still doing their thing. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's inspiring. You know, that's the kind of thing, when you get to the gym, when you give yourself a chance to get there, you can be surrounded by inspiration if you look for it.
100%. I think that's a one major thing that we tell people all the time. Like, hey, like the hardest step is that first step to even commit to this thing. But then there's going to be days where it's going to be tough, and a lot of times we search for motivation, but it's just that action that we need to take first, and motivation actually comes from you taking some action steps, and then it builds that way. It's not the other way around. We can't wait for it. We have to take that action. But then, like you said, when you go into the gym, when you make that step into the gym, like the motivation's already coming up, and then you look for the inspiration, and you see the inspiration.
Yep. It's
Major thing.
Yeah.
100%. What do you do, maybe personally on your side, for motivational stuff? Because like you and I are talking, we're not always motivated. You know, everyone thinks that they see somebody who looks like they've got a lot done, and then they're motivating and they're inspirational, and that there's a lot, it's just, you know, boils off of them. But it's not the case. It's not the case. So what are some things that you do to kind of like motivate, you know, build motivation, and kind of like you obviously look for inspiration in some certain cases, and you can see those things and you can really manifest that and build it. But what are some other things that you do?
You know, there's a lot of things. Like one of my tools is I got my dad's voice in my head. At a very young age, he was that kind of voice in my head that says, don't make excuses. Like that kind of voice that, you know, that and I had that at a very young age. So like when I played football in high school, if I dropped the ball, you know, then I had that nagging desire to say, well, the quarterback threw it at the bad spot, or you know, whatever, the ball was wet. And my dad, no matter what, even if it was true, it was always, no, you don't make excuses. Then you need to make the play, go back and do it again and do it the right way. And that voice rings true in my head to this day. I still hear that voice, you know. But in so doing that and hearing that, and I guess for the journey for me, and in not just in fitness, but also in music, as a teacher, as a husband, as a father, it is this idea of, you know, I don't like the word generally motivation. I just generally, for me personally, it's never worked. Like if I say I need more motivation, I'm too smart. I outsmart myself. Like if I could just will myself into wanting to do something, I'm too smart. I know I'm not going to do it, because if I leave any ounce of choice in it, then I won't do it. Like if it's a choice, then I'm not going to do it. But if I eliminate the choice mentally for myself, and it just becomes, no, I'm doing this, and it's a discipline, then it actually gets easier. And then I don't have the excuses, and I don't have those little tricks in my brain that I play on myself, where I actually find a way to trickle out of it. If I don't know, if like for me, if I have a long day at work, it's very tempting and very easy to say, I'm too tired to go exercise right now because I had a hard day. Mm-hmm. But in truth, that's my brain's trick. But in truth, the very thing I need that would help me the most is going to do the workout. So I can't let my brain get into that. Okay, you know, I'm tired. No, this isn't a choice, man. It's like you're going to your second job. I just finished one job. I got another job. And my job now is to go to the gym and move these weights and get on that treadmill and sweat and get off. And then I'm going to go home. And then I'm going to do that job. And I'm going to be an awesome husband. I'm going to be an awesome dad. And then I'll rest and restart. And that's what works for me. It can't be a choice. It's got to be a discipline.
Oh man, I love that. There's a ton of stuff there. I have my grandpa's voice in me and a lot of my stuff that I kind of have. But I like how you don't allow yourself the choice, and if people realize that as humans, we're almost wired to say no, right? It's almost a default answer. And if you don't give yourself the choice and you get to that disciplinary area and you make it the discipline, there never was a choice all along. It was just, this is just what we do. And this is just how it's done. And like you touched on it there, everything else gets better from that. You become a better teacher, become a better father, become a better husband, become a better coach, become a better musician. I mean, everything builds on it.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that's funny. People ask me, like, I've had quite a bit of messages on Facebook and stuff. They're like, and the answer is like, how do you become a better singer? How did you become such a powerful singer? And I'm like, fitness. I'm like, do you exercise? And they'll say like, no, I mean, I do, but no, I don't. And I'm like, you need to exercise. And they're like, well, I don't like, no, it has so many benefits just in singing alone. Do you want to be a better singer? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, then go and do it. And they're like, I don't like lifting weights. Then don't lift weights. Then go run. Do you like running? Do you like bike riding? Yeah. Okay. Then do that. Do that. Because a lot of, in particular, like in the voice itself, you already have it in you to do everything you need to do there. You know, if you need to sing, obviously it's already been established that you can sing because you're there. You know, everything else is just the mind game, the mentally overcoming it, and all of the anxiety that goes with it. And so you have to have a disciplined mindset to stick to what you have to do when you're in that setting, because the pressure is insane. You have to have something you can lock into, and having something like fitness gives you practice to have something to lock into, because, you know, when I'm getting ready to do a set, I have to focus on what I'm doing to get the most out of it. And so when I have to get up on the stage and sing a song, I'm already used to locking into what I have to do because I've already done it thousands of times in the gym. Not to mention the physical benefits. Like they said, how do you get that power in your voice? Like, I'm used to breathing from my diaphragm, because when I'm doing heavy lifting, you have to take a deep breath. And so before you power through something, you have to take a deep breath and use that, and boom, it translates right into the microphone. It's a natural progression. And when you're on stage and you're performing, it's easier because you have energy. It's awesome. So do it. It works. And people are like, huh, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
You bet.
The diaphragm, the core strength, the lung capacity, the aerobic capacity. I mean, it's all in play there. It's all in play. Yep. The endurance, everything. That's super cool. And I know when I was still in the band, I would be best on practice days or show days if I worked out right before, or as close as I could to the practice of the show. And I'm like, oh man, like I think we're figuring something out here. Like the lungs are opened up, diaphragm's activated a little bit more, like everything's working through.
Yeah. The endorphin rush, you're ready to go.
Yeah, super cool. The big thing that there's also this component here, as you get better at what you do in your life, whatever that is, and we can take music as an example. There's different levels that you have to be ready for. And like you said, you have this discipline to be ready for those. So when you were, you know, you took the shot to go to Nashville to go to The Voice and audition, and then you got it, and you're going to LA, like you had to be ready for that. Fitness allows you to be ready with confidence and everything else, the physical attributes that you just talked about. But as you get better at your overall craft, there becomes more discipline that's basically needed to make sure that you keep rising to that challenge. That is something that I think goes into a little bit more of sticking to then discipline and then touching on responsibility. And I think a lot of times that responsibility, discipline's hard for a lot of people, but I think people aren't ready quite yet to, not quite yet ready, but they don't understand how responsible they have to be for themselves, to get to where they want to get to.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, like a lot of people want to drive down to Nashville and try out for The Voice, but I can tell you honestly, man, I could not believe I auditioned down in Nashville with over 12,000 people.
Wow.
And out of that 12,000, I think me and maybe 3-4 others actually made it out to LA. From what I know, I could be wrong on that. But what really astounded me was that so many people, like you got a chance to sit down and talk to some of these people, and they were people from all over the country that came to Nashville to try out for The Voice. And then you hear a little bit about, so what are you, like you'd ask, what are you singing? Oh, I'm going to sing with my guitar. One of the basics rules of your initial audition is you can't have a guitar. You have to sing a cappella. Okay, so what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to do about 30 seconds. Well, the basic rule is you have to do 45 seconds. So you're just listening to those people like, okay, you just went, how much money did you spend to get here? You got a hotel, in the inner city Nashville. You spent all this money, all this time to get here, but the basic important work that you needed to do to actually be setting yourself up to be successful, you didn't do, or you didn't pay attention to.
Yeah.
And so I was just sitting there, like in my head, I'm like, should I tell them? Like, no, you can't do that. You know, and some of these people were so stubborn too. I couldn't believe it. They're like, oh, they told me I can't play guitar, but I'm playing guitar. I'm going to show them. I'm like, what are you going to show them? Like, seriously? Like, you really think you're going to have a talent scout from NBC sit there and say, you know what, we're wrong. I was wrong. You can go. Like, no, it doesn't work that way, buddy. Like, you prove yourself to them by showing you can comply and learn and adjust to what they put you through, because that's part of the show. And people didn't understand that. So yeah, it is part, you have to be prepared. You have to know what you're doing, but it's the little things, you know, all the little things have to be in line in order to do it. Like, and there were little things, like they said, you get one song, you get 45 seconds, but if they might ask you for a second song. So you better have a second song ready to sing. And so I had a second song ready to sing. Another person got asked out of my group to say, hey, do you have a second song? And they're like, no. And so they could have moved on, but they weren't prepared. And so when it got to the tough spot where they were called out to do something, they were done. They couldn't do it. So people can't skip these things. It's hilarious to me, but it happens.
Oh, that's brutal. I mean, you watch. I think this is the hardest thing as a coach. Then you reminded me of it, where we see people get in their own way.
Yeah.
And they're so close to potentially being through this breakthrough, getting some success. And like you said, they're stubborn. They didn't quite. They're focusing on the minors. They put the little rocks in the jar before the big rocks. You know, and then you're touching on another thing. Like, they're investing hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars in themselves.
Yep.
But not following through on everything that they need to do. It's like they're wasting the money. Like, they're wasting their shot, their opportunity.
Yeah. Well, then they get embittered. I mean, all these people, you kind of see them walking out, and they're cussing under their breath because everybody else made the mistake. When you can sit there and honestly tell them, like, you can't tell them because you can't convince them otherwise. But you're like, no, you set yourself up for failure there, bud. Like,
Yep.
You really did.
Yeah,
So,
it's the person who sneaks, you know, the couple sodas a day, the one who avoids, you know, who doesn't try to manage stress, or sneaks the muffin every day in the office. Like, it eventually catches up, and, you know, it's not surprising when you look back and the data's there, the proof is there. There's one thing I forgot to ask earlier. On your way as where you're at right now in your journey as a musician, have you reached out, aside from like choir, have you reached out for professional help at any point along the way?
No, it was the last time I actually had any professional training or help with singing was when I was a sophomore in high school. And then the rest of the way was, I've always been an ear person. Like, I hear, and then I'll try it. And if it doesn't sound like that, I can kind of adjust to it the way I want it to sound. And then, you know, and then when you sing it, like, even like, you know, when it's in the same thing with fitness, when you try something and ouch, that hurts. Okay, I shouldn't probably do that. It's the same idea with singing. So when I sang a certain way and I got too deep in the back of my throat, and it started affecting my throat, and I couldn't finish out shows effectively because by the end of the show I was fried. Okay, that doesn't work. I got to get better at singing from my chest and singing from my diaphragm, and drawing my energy from different parts. So it's a process of, you kind of figure it out for yourself as you go. And for me, luckily, I got my dad's voice in my head, one, telling me, don't give up, you figure out a way to make it happen. And two, I genuinely love it. You know, I love rock music. I love singing all out. And for me, it's just life-giving. So it's natural that I just want to get better and do it better every single time.
Super cool. It shows too. And it shows, man. It's awesome to kind of know that side of it. That's super sweet. When we're looking at the goals and everything else, like you've had the passion for rock music. You've been in the band for about 6 years. There's obviously still goals that you have and the band has together that you want to move forward towards. When we talk about like health and fitness goals, we always give people there's the long-term and the short-term goals. Holy smokes. Short-term. And within those, that we kind of view the short-term goals as like little checkpoints to see where we're at towards the ultimate goal or the long-term goal. And then we have process goals and outcome goals. when we think about process goals, it's the stuff that we can put into play as our habits, as our daily action that we can do every day, do every week, do every month, that gets us to the outcome, but we have no control, not full control over that outcome goal. There's stuff like that that's parallel to music too. Like you guys have long-term goals, you got short-term goals. How do you kind of set those things up, and how can a person then listening to this for their health and fitness stuff be like, ooh, I can do that. Like I could set something up.
It's just funny that, you know, you talk about how fitness can parallel into our music goals, because I can tell you that I pretty much in my own fitness journey and my fitness goals, I pretty much copied and pasted my method of how I would do that in my fitness into the music. It's just like you can't think in music like, okay, I'm just going to be a Toma, Wisconsin resident today, and then, you know, next year I'm going to be doing the Super Bowl halftime show. Like it just doesn't work that way, and it's not realistic, you know. And the same in the gym. It's like I can't go from benching 185. You could say, okay, in 2 months I'm going to be benching 350. Okay, you can't think too far, and you can't think too big. Again, it goes back to the little things, you know. So I would say that one of the things I've learned, and one of the big things I would say that I really want to emphasize in this, is that fitness has taught me one thing, is that failure isn't a bad thing. You know, a lot of times in fitness, some of the most beneficial things, not all the time, but sometimes failing is one of the best things that can happen to you in fitness. And they talk about training to failure in some things to really get to the point of exhaustion where your body is enticed to grow, or, you know, things like you're really pushing your limits to get the most gain. And in that sense, eventually you're going to reach a point of failure. And so it's funny that in fitness, we are working towards a point of failure, you know, and then in music, there's a lot of failures. There's a lot of ups, and then there's a lot of downs. Like for someone like me to go from a really, really high of the blind audition, oh my, and then the thousands of messages, oh my goodness, man, you're going to win The Voice. It's so cool you sang Hemorrhage. I'm going to follow you the whole way. I'm going to vote for you. You're going to make it to lives. You're going to win. You're going to be the next big star. And then the very next episode I'm on, I'm losing the battles and I'm sent home. And I'm back to being some Toma teacher in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, right, in many people's eyes. And so so you got to talk, like, it's one thing to be disciplined and to be ready and to set yourself up for success. It's a whole nother level to be disciplined. And I'm learning this along the way right now. I'll say it's a whole nother level to be disciplined to the point where you're okay with failing and then getting back up and keeping going. And that's a whole nother level of strength that's really tough. I'll be honest with me. That's especially this year with COVID. Like I could have come home after The Voice and done how many shows and done so many great things had it not been for COVID. So I got a ton of things standing in my way. And then there's hundreds of people saying, well, the rock genre is dead. There is nothing in rock out there in mainstream. So you really have nothing to look for and nothing to shoot for anyway, because nothing's out there. And then 2, you got COVID. And then 3, you just got kicked off The Voice. You only made it into 2 rounds. So you got all these battles, all these uphill battles ahead of you. And it's enticing to say, well, what's the point? But if my journey, fitness has taught me anything, no. The failures are the good things that you can learn from and grow from. And then you keep coming back for and keep shooting for the next limit, for the next PR, for the next thing. So it's fun. It's a complete parallel.
I love it, man. I love all of that. Someone's probably watching this from the gym right now and be like, yeah, Jordan says, learn from your failures. There's opportunity there, and seek for that opportunity, you know, everything else. Because
he's right. Jordan's right, everybody. Learn from your failures. Use them for a good thing, man. Do it. I promise.
Thank you. Thank you. And like you said it there too, is sometimes we have to learn it the hard way, and we have to do it twice, right? We have to learn it twice. We have to learn it 3 times. But there is, if you look for it, there's massive opportunity. And everyone, I talked about it last week too. Everyone thinks like their journey is going to go in a great straight line like that, and fat loss is going to drop straight down like that. When it's really, it's all over the place. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be valleys. There's going to be peaks, and there's going to be times when it sucks and there's no motivation. But it's the journey of it all and what you can learn from it.
Yeah, and is it sustainable? I mean, again, it goes back to like you have to find a way to make it something that you love, and something with sustain doing. I think that's the thing that really discourages me with a lot of people on their fitness journeys. Like, you know, I have family members who will just kind of say to me like, yeah, I got this really, really, really strict diet plan and I'm really hungry right now. And man, I'm miserable, but I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm in my head, I'm like, no, you're not. Like, no, you're not going to keep doing it. And sure enough, a week later, hey, you still doing that diet? No, I couldn't do it. I kicked it out. and they got a bag of Doritos in their hands, and you're like, oh, okay, it's got to be sustainable. You got to be realistic, and you do have to genuinely have a love or at least some kind of joy that you get from doing it. Otherwise, partially, why are you doing it? And two, what are you getting out of it? Like, is it worth it if it's not that? So I don't know. That's my rant. There's a lot of that.
You're 100% correct though, or at least in my mind. Like I'm in the same boat, and I we did the top 5 reasons your body isn't burning fat in the podcast last week, and number 2 was you're not consistent nutrition. Like you're all over the place. You're not giving yourself enough credit for doing something that's sustainable. You found a diet online or something that your friend did, and it just doesn't work for your lifestyle. Like if it doesn't work for your lifestyle, it's not a you thing. So don't get down on yourself. Just move on to the next thing and find out what does.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how that works? Like you've heard these conversations you have, like, the calorie deficit, the calories in versus the calories out. And then you'll sit down with somebody and you kind of, if you literally break it down with them, this doesn't often happen because people don't want to do that.
Right.
Say, okay, so break it down for me. What have you eaten this week? No. And even if they do, they don't tell you everything. But even when you break it down, they'll tell you like, well, okay, I was in a 300 calorie deficit on all week. Like Monday through Friday, I was at 300 every single day. So that's what, 1,500 calories, right?
Yep.
And so this weekend, I'm going to reward myself by having a 3,000 calorie surplus of what I actually need. And you're like, no, you just wasted those 5 days, because you can have those cheat days occasionally, but if you're doing that consistently, if you're always thinking, oh, I have a couple hundred that I'm cutting here, so now I can have 1,000 here to reward myself. And then you're like, well, your calories this week, what were they? You actually were at a surplus. So you didn't lose weight, but you didn't set yourself up to lose weight. And it goes right back to the same thing with the audition down in Nashville. Well, you came down here, you're thinking you're going to be the next big star of The Voice, and you're telling yourself you're a really good singer and you did this and you did this. But when you really break it down, you didn't set yourself up for success. You actually set yourself up to be a step behind where you should be right now. So it's funny how it works.
Oh yeah, so many good nuggets there, and like you're saying too, you're going down to Nashville, 12,000 people, to get through those audition phases. Like there's going to be a lot of people that probably obviously don't make it, but that they aren't quite as good. But there's probably going to be caliber of people that are phenomenal that are there with you. Obviously, you and the 3 or 4 other people that made it. Like there's, and that's now you're in LA on the show, and now you're with high quality people. And there's moments there that you can learn from them too, and grow with them and help you with your goals and everything else.
Mm-hmm. But it's similar too in the gym, isn't it? When like when you walk in the gym and you look over across the gym and you see a guy that you wish you looked like, and you don't look anything like that guy. And then you're pretty much destroying yourself, or you're defeating yourself mentally and psychologically, because in your mind, all of a sudden, that's a Mount Everest that you'll never reach that peak or that mountaintop, because that idea of it being that good is just so unrealistic in your self-confidence and your self-image, that you pretty much psych yourself out from even having the opportunity to do it. And
100%.
I'll tell you right here, like getting to The Voice and getting to Los Angeles, literally you're hearing people like Des, she does backup singing for Kanye West. So you're like, okay, I'm from Toma, Wisconsin. I teach students. What do you do for a living? Oh, I sing for Kanye West. Yeah. What am I doing here? Like, seriously, what is this? And then like you realize like oh, so like where did, because they did Nashville, but then they went to Rio, Nevada, then they went over to Baltimore, and in total there was over 45,000 people who auditioned for the show. And then you get to these people and they're like, so like, where did you audition? What city? Oh, I didn't audition, or I did a private audition because they called me in to ask me to do an audition. And I'm like, so you're that good that The Voice called you? Like The Voice didn't call me. They didn't know I existed. Like I had to go from the way bottom up. So I'm like, what am I doing here? Like I'm nowhere near the level of these people. And there was that, like, every step of the way, that voice was in my head. Like, I don't belong here. Like, I'm not good enough to be here. Or they're going to realize they made a mistake and kick me out in no time. Or when I got to the blind audition, I actually got a chance to do a blind audition, because not everybody got to that. You almost tell yourself, there's no way I'm going to get a blind audition with this much talent here. And then you get to the blind audition, there's no way I'm going to get a chair to turn for me. And sure enough, all of that, you got to like, I just got to get out. You cannot let that get in your head, because as soon as doubt creeps in, it will debilitate you from doing anything that you know you can.
100%, 100%. And we'll listen to that voice too, if that's the only voice that we hear, right? It's the only one that we're listening to. And you almost go through like an imposter syndrome, if you will, there too. You know, like, wow, do I really deserve this? Do I belong here? And do I deserve to, you know, lose the next 10 pounds? Am I really that good to get my bench press up another 5? Like there's always going to be that doubt. And like you just said, you got to overcome it and tell yourself you're that good, but show yourself you're that good. Learn from those moments. I think there's another opportunity there too, where there's a lot of people that lose a bunch of weight and they gain it all back. Or there's a lot of people that do something amazing with their health and fitness and then kind of let it go. There's like this little complacency thing on success. You were just on The Voice, like and nationally broadcasted show from the little old town of Tomah, Wisconsin. It's easy to kind of let that go to your head and maybe take it easy and get comfortable for a moment. But obviously just talking to you and getting to know you in these last 52 minutes, that's not you. So what were the next steps? You were coming back and obviously there's still a ton of obstacles in the way with not being able to do shows right now, not, you know, coming back into COVID. What are the next steps kind of for you to kind of get through that and not get complacent?
You know, you got we keep bringing fitness in this, buddy, but it's the parallels are there. Like when you're getting into the gym and you really decide you want to commit to making yourself better, or you want to be healthier, you have to find the niche that works, that you can sustain. So you have to find the reason, like the passion. Why do I want to do this? You know, sometimes the legitimacy of wanting to be in shape, wanting to be fit, wanting to gain muscle, wanting to lose fat is for legitimate health reasons, to help yourself be better. You know, if it's for a good reason, you'll stay with it because your mindset and everything is in the right place to go for it. You know, if it's for wrong reasons or reasons that you really don't care about, eventually the motivation, the discipline to do it will fade. And for me, the same idea applies in music. I think coming back to Little Tomah, Wisconsin, after being in Los Angeles, a lot of people were worried when they got out there. My bandmates were worried. They're like, when you get out there to LA and you have the best musicians and all this great stuff, you're going to forget about old Tomah, and you know, you're going to go out there and make a name for yourself somewhere else. But actually, it kind of gave me a new appreciation for where I came from and where I am. And I think this platform, you would say, like the feedback I've gotten from so many people, just say, hey, thank you so much for speaking out about your struggles. The mental illness, you know, my battles in the past with anxiety and depression, coming out and speaking about that. You know, thank you for being a positive in what has otherwise been a very, very hard, negative year. I mean, even as a teacher in the district, there's been so many teachers and like in school in general, the vibe and it's a negative place. It's tough. We're all battling COVID. We're all battling, a lot of families are financially hurting. There's so much negativity this year, not to mention the political, social agendas and whatever the problems that we're having all over the country. There's so much negativity. You can't even turn on the TV anymore without feeling a wave of negativity. You can't walk out the door anymore without feeling a wave of negativity. And then they say, dude, what happened with you on The Voice was the best thing that happened to me all year. And that just brought home for me, like, wow, we are a community. Like we are definitely a community. I think that's what makes me feel privileged. Is that some of these artists, they come from Nashville or they come from New York or they come from Los Angeles, like they're one of millions. And so they kind of get lost in that community aspect of that idea of community. For me to come out to Los Angeles and be small town guy and not be able to come home to my own small town and community and to be able to give back to them because of that community mindset, it's a passion. So for me, it's not about making money. Doing this is not about making money because that doesn't give me joy. And doing this to be popular, to have a name for myself, to, you know, have people want to see me sing and think I'm great and think I have a great voice and stuff like that. That's all fine and dandy, whatever, that's great. But it doesn't mean the same thing to me as if I can have a positive influence on somebody, if I can make somebody feel better than they did before I had an interaction with them, or if I can give them good music that makes them feel good for a little while. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that makes me want to do it. You know, it's finding the passion, and that's the passion. So that's why I want to do it.
Oh man, words of a true professional there, my friend.
Yeah.
True pro, a true pro. I've got 3 questions left for you. That 2 of them are just personal. They're selfish.
Cool.
But I think it'd be kind of cool just to hear everybody say it. And then the other one is going to be if there's something that you want someone to know that you wish you would have known sooner about the fitness stuff. So that's going to be a big one. We'll end the show on that. But the first two are my selfish two. Number one, what was the second song? What was your backup song?
That was be the Shine Down version of Simple Man.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Number two. Number two. John Legend turned around. I mean, quick. I mean, the chair was flipped. I mean, really quick. And you could
Yeah.
see Blake was ready for it, and then he turned around. What was going through your head? And then with that, what was, because you had to stay focused. You're still going. And he's turning around, and then, I mean, were you hoping that there was one person in particular that turned around for you? I know you wanted anybody, but was there one in particular?
I definitely wanted Blake. I did want Kelly Clarkson to turn. Those were my top two. And then I honestly, I didn't think John would turn. Like I didn't anticipate John Legend would turn. And then when it came to Gwen Stefani, I wasn't sure. Like I wasn't sure about where she would be. She was a complicated one for me to understand in terms of if she would like that genre, that music or not. Sure enough, I learned quite a bit about that afterward. But that kind of back to get me a little bit, I guess. I don't know. But I kind of said if I could have two people turn, I want Kelly and I want Blake, because I thought realistically I would have both of them turn. And that's why when John Legend turned like 20 some seconds into the song, I was like, I'm glad that the camera wasn't showing my face when it first happened, and they were instead showing John Legend turning, because I probably did a double take while I was up on stage. I'm probably like, what? Like I was like, John Legend turned, because if you know Hemorrhage, I anticipated, because my vocal coaches love, like, oh man, when you pop into the chorus, that high part, that's a chair turning moment right there. Like boom, when you go leave loud, like you go all out, like yeah, that's when the chairs are going to turn. So I'm anticipating that's what's going to happen. And then John Legend turns before that. So I'm like, wait, you're early. Like, okay, cool. That was awesome. But at the same time, so you're terrified still. Like it's not the same vibe as it is on TV, because that big chair turn noise, like psh, you don't hear that. And performing, you don't actually hear that. They add that in later. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I just did. But so, but all you see, like when you're up on the stage and you're performing, and because, well, in particular, it would have been so much, I gotta be honest, it would have been so much easier if they had had an audience, because then I could have locked into eyes and I could have performed. But here there was nothing but lights. So you're just kind of looking around and everywhere's lights. And then up on the wall, there's these spaces that are on these Zoom calls, and and there's so much you're trying to figure out, okay, what can I lock into? And then all of a sudden you see a light light up, and you realize that light lighting up was John Legend turning. And that's when you're like, holy crap, I just got a chair turn. Like, okay. And then you're like, oh gosh, what's my next line? Because I still have to sing. That's right. And then there's certain points, like in the choreographies, where you're like, okay, by this point I want to be here, and at this point I want to be here. So you got to think about, where am I standing? And then there's certain things that I needed to prepare for, like some bigger notes that I was going to throw in there. So I had to have my right breath, and I had to have the right setup for it, and the right enunciations, and the finest little, you go through the song like 2,000 times. And so every little note, every little vowel you have studied to know how to do it. So you got to remember, okay, don't miss this, don't miss that. And then sure enough, then Blake turns, and you're like, holy crap, I got to make a choice now. And then, oh crap, that's right. And then you got to get back into the song. So it was almost like, sweet, okay, leave me alone, I got to sing. It was
Super
nuts.
cool, man. Super cool. And there's, you saying like there's practice involved. You were routinistic, you were ritualistic. There was technique involved, there's skill. When it comes to health and fitness, that stuff we train so that when we have times to perform or shine or get to the results that we want to get to, we go through that, so we get the adaptation to get there.
And that was, man, like practice like you play. Practice like you play. Like when I coach basketball and I see, athletes kind of goofing off during practice, I'm like, dude, if you practice that way, you'll play that way. And they would always be like, nah, I'll turn it on when it comes to the actual game. No, you got to be turning it on now, because it's got to be a habit. Yeah, that's what makes you the best you can be, is when it's a habit.
100%. And we're big on habits. We're enormous on habits, enormous. And obviously it's easy to fall into bad ones too. But if we can practice and be aware to put in their advantageous or opportunistic habits, and we follow them, man, good things happen. So, that last question, if there was one thing that you wish you knew sooner in your fitness journey, or if there's one thing that you would really wish you could just tell somebody who's just starting, and it could be obviously anything that we talked about tonight, what would it be if there is a one thing?
Jeez. If it's a one thing, that's really tough, because there's a lot of things that I learned the hard way in fitness. And I think, man, it's a really tough question to answer, to feel like I gave you the right answer. I think one thing that I've learned along the way in terms of just fitness and just general health, whether that is lifting weights or thinking positive, just health. For me, health has become a lot more than what I look like. It's a lot more about what I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that maybe that would be my big one thing. It's like, if you're thinking that your fitness journey and all you need to do is look good to feel good, I can tell you right now, you'll be disappointed, because I've been around people in gyms all over, and I've talked to so many people with different journeys, and I could look at somebody and say they would have the perfect physique, but then you talk to them and they were miserable, And so for me, I would just say, like, if you're looking at being healthy, and your only component to seeking health is through your fitness in terms of your physical appearance, you're going to be disappointed, because your health has so much more to do with your mindset, how you see yourself, how you see the world around you. And if your fitness can help you on your journey towards reaching a good place in that realm, you're going to be so much better off than if you kill yourself day after day, week after week, and you get down to you can get down to a 6% body fat. But if you hate your life, then what have you achieved? You haven't achieved anything. And I'll be honest with those people too, just so you know, as much as you think other people care about how you look, they don't care as much as you wish they cared, So if it's all about your appearance, you're going to find out eventually that it only does so much for you. You got a lot more to gain by being a well-rounded human being, by having a healthy mindset, healthy outlook on yourself, on your self-confidence, on your self-worth, and just what you can offer to others and what you can offer to the world. If you're working on all of that, you're going to be a very healthy individual.
Oh my gosh. I think if we probably could have just skipped the initial 55 minutes, 56 minutes of this podcast, and we could have just put that in right there. That was it, man. That was it. I was trying to write down quotes while you were talking. I'm like, oh my gosh, here's a quote. Here's a quote. Here's a quote. Trying to bust through them.
Well, it's fun. You and me, we're guys that have learned this the hard way, right? Like obviously, you've taken your fitness quite seriously. If I can judge by your traps alone, you know what I'm saying? But like, you haven't skipped your shrugs. That's good. But but eventually, right? Eventually, sure, I'm gonna have big rounded shoulders and a nice big chest. But guess what? I'm still not happy. Like, well, you got to keep in mind everything, not just what you look like with your shirt off or with your shirt on and it's a nice tight shirt. That's only one aspect of who you are as a human being. So work on all.
Yeah, that one aspect thing, and obviously it's a motivator here and there, but don't miss out on the rest. And we probably didn't touch on that mental health part of it enough, and the mindset part of it enough. Maybe we'll have to sneak back in an episode in the future and just sit down and just completely go over positive mindset, growth mindset, and that part of it, because I think there's some big nuggets there. And obviously it already sounds like it'd be a hell of a conversation to have with you about it.
Yeah, man, it'd be fun. Let's do it.
Absolutely. So guys, once again, this is Aaron Scott. You, like I said before, you probably saw him on The Voice, but he is the front man of a band that's been in existence for about 6 years called One Way North, out of our little Toma, Wisconsin, where we're actually both from, or close to it. Yeah. And it's representing, man. It's pretty cool to have that too. So it's awesome. And thank you so much for being on the show, by the way. This has been a blast.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff in here that people will, they can see a different side of you, but hear you kind of talk a little bit more on this topic, not just in terms of health and fitness, but overall health and your well-being.
Yeah.
Huge stuff.
One thing I'll really touch on, one quick thing too, buddy, is this is Christmas Eve. And right around everybody right now is stuffing their faces with carbs, and then they're going to feel, and then if you're listening, it's you're going to stuff yourself with some carbs here, and then you're going to feel guilty. And then New Year's is coming around, and then you're going to tell yourself, I'm going to get in there and get healthy. And I would say to them, just like I tell everybody else when they sign up for those gym memberships in January, don't make this a 1 month goal. Like, at least give yourself at least 6 solid months to really commit to something. Don't even give yourself a choice to try it for a month. No. When you're going to jump into it, you're going to jump into it. And that's what I say. After about 6 months of really committing to this and figuring it out for yourself, you're going to think it would be foolish to give it up after you've done it. So the habits will have formed. You'll see some of the benefits of doing it. And so just don't go too short-sighted. Like, go for the long haul. Like, just do it. Don't even give yourself a choice. Just do it. And then you'll see what it does.
Oh, I love it, man. And thank you. I think that's a big thing that people need to hear. They can't give themselves the doubt of like, oh, we'll see how it goes for a month. No, see how it goes for 6. See how it goes for 6. Then tell me. Awesome. Well, we'll definitely keep in touch. We'll definitely be rooting you on. Again, congrats on everything so far, and keep doing all the good things. And obviously, a person with the mindset that you have and what you already have in place, like with the habits and the discipline, there's tons of more success to come, and we'll be along for the community part of it to share it with you.
Thanks, bud. You bet. Appreciate it.
Awesome. And this is airing on Christmas Eve, so happy holidays to you and your family. I know we've never met in person or anything like that, but I'll be in Toma. I'll be walking around. So if we end up
good,
socially distancing, seeing each other at some point in the future, and I'll definitely be one of your shows in the future too. That's there's no doubt about that.
You bet. Well, you were in a band, right?
I was. Yep.
So what did you do in the band?
I was frontman. I was vocals.
Oh, so duet time, buddy. Let's go.
We were a metal hardcore band. I was a screamer and I was a growler.
So can you do that? Like, I mean, you learned the technique.
It was one of those things where it was funny when you talked about it earlier, and I think it's kind of funny watching the movie, the Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper movie.
Yeah.
Born This Way. I can't even remember what the name of the movie is. Right, The Star, whatever. Star is Born.
Yeah.
Where he's like, how do you hear it? How do you hear it? Well, a lot of the stuff, I think when I first got really into music and I then developed this passion, I dove into it a lot, and I just started hearing it, and then I just kind of mimicked it, and then I looked up a little bit of stuff on how to do it and started practicing it, and obviously got a band to help me practice it, and then went from there. And I haven't done it in now 6-7 years. Buying guitar strings tomorrow to start playing guitar again. So
let's go. I got a studio right here in Toma if you're ever around. We'll
all right.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, one of the guys that actually, while I was on The Voice out there, he had a lot of downtime because 98% of the time you're in your hotel room. Like, if they don't need you for The Voice because of COVID restrictions, you were in your hotel room. You couldn't leave. So YouTube, Netflix, Disney Plus, I mean, everything became like my saving grace. And one guy that I was watching, I don't know if you know him, Devin Townsend. I don't know if you ever heard of him or not.
Oh, but that sounds familiar.
He used to be in not a very family-friendly band called Strapping Young Lad. Whatever. But anyway, he's like an older guy. Like, he was like the epitome of confidence, because this guy, he like rocked like dreadlocks, but he was bald. Like, he was bald and he still grew out dreadlocks. And he was on the stage. He was like, you literally look at this guy. He looked like he should be working at an Office Max. And he's up on stage screaming out and his technique was flawless when it came to singing. But then he could hit a whole nother register with his scream voice, and just what he was able to do. I was just like fascinated. And I generally am. I'm fascinated with the technique and the mastery of the screaming voice. Like, people say, oh my gosh, I love your voice. And it's so cool what you can do. And they're like, what can you, like, can you do this? Can you do this? And like, can you scream? I'm like, honestly, I've tried it, but every time I've tried to scream, it hurts. Like, I just can't, I've done it. I haven't mastered it. And so to see someone like you that can get up there and do that, I respect that a lot.
Oh, it was bonkers. You talk about because we're still on the show, so let's keep it going.
Yeah.
You talk about confidence. You talk about confidence. Like, I grew up not doing any of this stuff at all, 0 bit in front of people, and got in the band, and I invited all of my family up. They had no idea what they were in store for, and I opened it up with one of our songs, and it's just, I still remember my stepdad. He's like, I think you should do more screaming. You're way better than that than the clean stuff. I'm like, thanks, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I still remember him telling me that. I still laugh about it, obviously.
Jeez. That's
But
awesome.
yeah. So just, talk about like inspiration, probably really looking forward to this conversation over the last couple of weeks and talking to a couple other people and just like, yeah, I got to get the guitar back out. And I just told my fiance, today, I'm like, I'm buying guitar strings tomorrow. Like it's coming back out. We'll give it a shot again.
Well, and
So,
it's important to establish you're going to join a band or you got something going before you get married. I did the very same thing. Like right when I was engaged to my wife, I was like, hey, I think I'm going to start a band. And so I was grandfathered into a band by the time I was married. So
perfect. I
keep
got
that.
10 months then. I got 10 months.
Yeah.
All right. Very cool. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us for episode 113 of the Community Fitness Podcast. The cool thing is if you guys want to have any questions for Aaron as we go forward, put them in the comments below. I'll make sure he sees them. I'll tag him in it and then send them over, and anything like that you want to ask him, I'm sure he'll be happy to answer. But once again, thanks everybody for watching. Aaron, thanks again for being here, man. This has been awesome. Even better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, man. Appreciate your time. I'm a watcher, man. I'm going to keep watching you, buddy. I wish the best success for you, bud.
Oh, likewise. It's mutual. It's very mutual, and I very much appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. And everybody, thanks again for watching. We'll see you next week back and better than ever on the Community Fitness Podcast.